All of our board members are present and accounted for. We're also joined by two student representatives. From Bear Creek High School, we have Farrellyn Donacan. Welcome. Thank you for coming. And from Tokyo High School, we have Jenica Cassiaro. Thank you for coming. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Farrellyn, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Farrellyn. Report on actions from closed session. There is nothing to report. Superintendent's report, Dr. Washer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, have a couple pictures to show you this evening. This is the grand opening of the county Vietnamese school. Somewhere, there we go, a couple pictures. It is being held at Park Lane Elementary School, so it is within Lodi Unified School District. This is a county-wide effort. The community has gotten together to create a school for Vietnamese children to learn the language and about their culture. You might recognize the young lady in the long blue dress. She is one of ours. This is live. She is one of our community liaisons, and she is one of the instructors for the course. Also in attendance to help celebrate that day is Esmeralda Garcia, who is one of our community liaisons. Dolores Bowman was also there, and Elodia Lampkin. This was a happy starting off point for the school, and it was very well attended by lots of folks. So it was a good community event. And they do meet on Saturdays to teach the children Vietnamese. I also want to take a moment to thank the Needham community for their cooperation during the recent incident that caused us to close both Needham and Needham West schools. Thank you to the parents and the staff for their cooperation. I want to acknowledge Mitch Slater from M&O, who headed that effort to keep everyone and everything safe. Also business services staff, food services, transportation. It was it's a complicated endeavor when you close a school for a day, and everyone pulled together to do a great job. So thank you to all of those folks. Elodia Lampkin provided a lot of support to the site. And I got an email from Lieutenant Canestrino, who wanted to compliment staff on the job well done, and especially to Mitch, to make sure that everything was safe and secure. So, and we also want to thank the Lodi Police Department for providing support and leadership in that as well. I have something that I'd like to share with you. If I can just take a moment to read a post from one of our recent graduates. This is a young man who was not in our district in the 9th grade, came to one of our schools in the 10th grade, and that's important as I read this. This is from our recent graduate. Wow, to be honest, I had several points in my life where I never thought I would be able to get the chance to go to school at a university. All through the first day of kindergarten to the last day of 9th grade, I was bullied pretty heavily, and as a result, just tried to make it through and never really ever studied and never gained study skills or anything like that. However, everything changed on my first day of 10th grade at Middle College High School. I still remember the first day. I was trying to stay low and unnoticed, but on the first day before class even started, people started trying to say hi and trying to welcome me to the school. I finally felt at home. Then on the second day, we had homework due, and our English teacher collected it and gave our papers to other students so that we can grade others' homework. But she came up just one short. She was missing mine because I didn't do it. I was the only one that didn't do their homework, and it was then that when I realized what kind of school I was in. It was from that moment on that I started to try. But there was another problem. I also had ADHD and no skills on how to control my lack of focus. So I was in deep trouble. I was now in 10th grade and had no study skills, nor did I have technique to focus and control my ADHD. So my grades in high school weren't the best, especially compared to my classmates. So after high school, I started school full-time at Delta College. I had some ups and downs there, but continued to learn how to study. After 2 long years, finally I'm at UOP and on my way to chasing my lifetime dreams. It won't be easy. I'm still learning how to stay focused, and I hope to get to that point where I no longer require my ADHD medication. I feel that it is something I will never have to complete control over, and that it'll be something that I will have to continue to work on for the rest of my life. Again, I just want to say thank you to all those that helped me get to where I am, to all my classmates from middle college, high school. Even if you didn't talk to me much, you helped change my life around, and I can't thank you enough. His mother also sent an email saying that middle college, high school saved this young man's life.
Very nice. Thank you for sharing that with us. And Dr. Washer, please commend your staff for the great work that they did at our last meeting. It was brought up about a William Gantner, and that was what one of our schools was going to be named for. And the very next day, it seemed like your staff dug through the archives and found an article on Mr. Gantner, who was the first Lodidian to be killed in World War II. He was assigned on a destroyer, machine gun post, I believe, and was defending the ship during the Pearl Harbor attack, was wounded, went to sick bay, and when they turned around, they couldn't find him. He had returned to his post. And ultimately died in the services of this country from a bomb attack. And 70 years ago, this district dedicated themselves to naming a school after him, and this board is going to keep that promise. So thank you very much for finding that, and that was very, very impressive. So moving on through the agenda, comments from the public. We have a 20-minute time period set aside for the public to address the board on items not listed on the agenda. Each public speaker shall limit his or her comments to 3 minutes. Is welcome to distribute any materials to the board and or staff. Due to the restrictions imposed upon the board by the California Brown Act regarding discussing topics that are not on the agenda, board members may not engage in dialogue about these issues. I have a card from Martha Snyder. Thank you for coming tonight, Martha.
Thank you, Mr. Freitas. Good evening, Mr. Freitas, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. I come to you tonight on behalf of Discovery Education and the Den Ambassadors. We met last night in my classroom. We finished our second session, which also means that we finished our first event of the fall semester. The teachers come from several different schools in our district, elementary, middle school, and high school. And last night they completed what's called a paper slide video. It was very interesting that the elementary teachers in the room, they're great teachers that work in a team to create their video. They did it on a math concept, and they said the video that they created is going to be shared with their parents, because the parents are having problems with the math concept. There's something about squares and things that go into doing the math calculations. So they're hoping that by posting that video for their parents, that the parents will then be able to better help their students with the homework. Coming up on October the 22nd, I hope I can count on the board and Dr. Washer to help me publicize the free fall then virtual conference that is open to any educator in our district to participate in and gain professional development. The teachers that are in the Den Ambassador program, they're earning 2 units of Fresno Pacific College credit this semester, and those that haven't finished the spring semester will probably continue on and do that again this year. And I very much appreciate the ability to offer that professional development to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. And
Martha, is that at Krista?
The class,
Yeah.
the class is offered at Krista McCullough. That's where they hold the sessions.
That's
So the
October.
VertCon in October
Okay.
is going to be online.
Okay. Thank you.
Martha, maybe you can shoot us an email on that too.
I will do that.
Thank you very much.
Hi.
And thank you for coming tonight.
Sure, sorry, just got off work. Answer Garcia, parent and staff member. I came to you a couple weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and we talked about different things teachers want to be part of Lodi Unified. One of them was about respect and professionalism, acknowledging what we know. And I'm starting tomorrow my 11th hour of one-on-one assessments with kindergartners. So it sounds fun. For the kids I get to sit with one-on-one, it is great. But for the other 22 kids in my class, it's not as much fun. And so my question is it necessary to do these one-on-one assessments 11 times, 5 for math, 6 for language arts, and have the other kids do other stuff, which I try to make as fun as possible. But as a professional, I feel like there's other ways to do that. Just because a publishing company says we need to do them, are they the educators? Or are we the educators? And I come with 2 other people that I work with. Oh, now everyone can hear me. Scary. I may never leave. With 2 other educators that I work with every day, and the kids are trying their best, but it's hard to hold their attention while we do that. And I have another little boy that click, because he wanted to get back to trains. Who doesn't want to play trains? So how valid is his assessment? So my question is, are we spending our time wisely giving these assessments? What are we getting from them? What could we be doing with our time? So if people ask the professionals, we probably have some different answers for you. And I've spoken with Randy and I emailed Dr. Washer today because the online stuff wasn't working when we got there, and eventually it was working. But doing them online is supposed to save time, but still taking a lot of time. The math took 5 minutes per kid. The language arts is taking about 15 minutes per kid because there's 31 questions to read to a 5-year-old, including a long story. If you want to see, I'll be doing it again in about 5 more weeks. So come on back, Julia Morgan, room A2. I bet other people would invite you to do them. And come on over. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Ann. Anybody else want to address the board in public comment? Moving on, we have action items, consent agenda A. Do any members of the board wish to pull any of the items of consent agenda A? Any members of the public wish to pull any of the items of consent agenda A? Chair will entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Neely, for your motion.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Talkin, for your second. Student vote?
Aye. Aye.
Call for the vote. Motion carries 7-0. Consent agenda B, student discipline cases. Students do not vote on this. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Vice President Heberly. And thank you, Mr. Womack, for your second. Call for the vote. Motion carries 7-0. Other action items. We have the certification of the 2015-16 unaudited actuals report.
Thank you,
That's
Mr.
easy for you to say, Mr. Hearn, right?
Thank you, Mr. Freitas, and members of the board. We're here towards the last one of the steps that we always have in our budget year, and that is the unaudited actuals, where we have closed the books for the prior year, and now it's been closed. We wait for our actual audit to occur, which you will receive a report in December. I believe it's December this year, isn't it? Or are we doing earlier?
Well, we're hoping to, if we can finish it in November,
Okay.
we'll fine.
So anyway, the good news is the district is fiscally sound, and we now have Maria Fong, our senior director and controller, to give you the report.
Welcome, Maria. Thank you for coming tonight.
Good evening, Mr. Freitas and members of the board. As Mr. Hearn mentioned, the books are closed, so once and they're here, you're not action for your review. Once they're approved, we will be sending them to the county office, which then will send it to the state. Currently, the auditors are on site reviewing the data, and as Mr. Hearn mentioned, we'll have a report of the audit at the end of this year. So we ended the year with $31 million for the general fund. This was $1 million increase over last year. It was $2 million decrease in the restricted, but we increased in the unrestricted. On this slide, it shows the different components of the ending fund balance. As required by the state, we have our $9.7 million in reserve for economic uncertainty, and then we have also part of the ending fund balance of $15 million has been set aside for various purposes that will be listed on the next slide. So as you can see, of the $15 million, the first two items are total about $3 million that will go back to the school sites for unspent year-end carryovers and also for purchase orders that were not completed by the end of the year. We also have set aside $2 million for instruction materials, special education, and any other items should something come up when we're doing our K-3 class size, should they go over the 24-to-1, we can react to that with the $1 million. And then we have set aside another $7 million for additional reserve and contingency. So this is just a pie chart format of the ending fund balance for the general fund of $31 million. So this slide shows the district other operating funds, which includes the cafeteria fund, adult education, child development, and it also includes our two self-insurance funds that we use to pay for workers' comp and also to pay the benefits for our retired employees. As I mentioned, during the second interim, we had an actual study done of our liability for the retiree health benefits, and they determined at that point in time that it's $100 million. Of that, $58 million are for services already provided by our current employees and retired employees, and another $41 million for future services by our current employees. So those are the money set aside to pay for those benefits. And on this slide, we're showing the ending fund balance for our construction funds. As you can see on Fund 40 at the end, the capital reserve, the special reserve for capital outlay, that includes the one-time money that the board had approved for various capital projects and is sitting there until the project is completed. And lastly, we have our debt service funds. We have over $161 million in outstanding debts, and these are the money that will be used to retire those debts. So with that, that concludes my presentation of how the year ended for 2015-16. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Any comments from the board?
Question.
Yes. Mr. Neely.
Let's go back to page 2 just a second. Okay, the non-expendables there, those are simply items that we have in stock. And that's a monetary value assigned to those.
Mr. Neely, that represents prepaid expenditures for, we, some of the money for the credit for our E-rate, so that's where the majority of our money is.
Okay,
So
prepaid expenses, right?
Prepaid expenses. And then our revolving cash fund of 127, but most of it is for our prepaid expenses.
Okay. And restricted, those are our Title I funds?
No, let me look at, I think it's for some of the restricted, like the Prop 39 money.
Okay.
Some of them is special education.
Got it.
And there's a, let me look at it real quickly.
That's fine, Maria. That's a
Yeah, so,
explanation.
yeah, so those are money that are for specific purposes.
All right, let's go to page 3 for just a moment, please. So we see that first 2.4 million up there. That's money that we've allocated to the sites, and they are carrying that forward
That's correct.
for any number of reasons. It could be to save up money to buy something big or.
Right, they're allotted up to 10% on some of those accounts, and then if there's something special and has been approved, then they can carry over additional costs.
Okay, good. Reserve for instructional materials at 2 million. Is that
That's Lisa's money for textbooks.
for textbooks? Now, these are textbooks that we,
Not necessarily.
pretty rich, aren't you? All right, so Lisa's got $2 million in reserve. Do we seriously need that much?
That can be spent very quickly, believe me.
Well, I understand if we do a complete adoption or something, but
Well,
this is not for
that's-
complete adoptions, is it? Or
No, we do most of that in anticipation for adoption.
for adoption. Okay, I got you, that's fine. Reserve for special education, $2 million. Now, we had that last year as well.
We have had that almost since I've been here, yes.
And how do we do on that from the beginning of the year to the end of the year?
Without looking at the specific detail, I know that last year it was spent down. I can't remember the exact number, but they spent down some of the reserve that we set aside last year.
Okay.
Mr.
Probably,
Nealon, we often have to create classes because new students come in. There are additional expenses because of new enrollment with different needs, so that goes very quickly.
So it comes out of that month?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Very good. And the $1 million for grade span adjustment, I kind of thought we'd moved beyond that, the fact that we had solved that issue and that we don't, I mean, I don't know, it just seems like $1 million to sit there for that. Is that still necessary?
Mr. Neely, we reduced that quite a bit. The first year, we put in the entire dollar amount that could be lost if we actually win,
Which is,
which would be well over $7 million.
okay,
Since then, what we have done is put that there for either the hiring of additional teachers if needed, or the transportation of students if needed.
okay, all right. And then,
So instead of focusing on the penalty, you're focusing on the remedies.
Right.
okay, that makes sense.
Got it.
And then your reserve for contingencies, $500,000, that just makes sense to have. But there may be a mold abatement issue come up or something like that.
Just part of being precautious.
Okay, now we've got a $6.6 million down here designated for economic uncertainties, but I believe there's also another $9 million, almost $7 million unassigned reserve for economic uncertainty. So together, we're looking at what, 15.2, 16.2? Yeah, 16.2 million designated for economic uncertainties. Am I asking the right question, Mr. Hearn? You've got this look on your face.
Well, I was trying to see where we're going with this, but
I'm just out there trying to gain knowledge, sir. That's all it is.
If in fact the law that we currently are under is triggered, we could have a maximum of 6% reserve, which we would actually be under.
Okay. Now,
And then, as I've said in the past, a comfortable reserve for the district is around 10%, which is, if you total it up, we're close to that. We're probably are somewhere around 9% now. And so, again, it's, as we know, the economy is cyclical and there will be a downturn at some time. And if you have small reserves, you're going to have to make immediate and drastic changes. If you have a little larger reserve, you might have a little bit of a cushion time to be able to react a little more carefully to the economic situation. So
that makes sense to me. Which one of those two is the 3% mandated by the state?
the $9 million.
So we're augmenting that with another 6.6. For good financial reasons, just in case something happens. Because we might have a downturn again.
Well, if in fact, I know I saw.
You don't think it'll be continual growth from now on?
No, in fact, I saw some Props 55 badges out there, and that's what we're hoping for, because if you're looking at current tax collections for the state of California, they are currently down. So that is one of your first indicators of an economic downturn.
All right, and that's all that I've got, other than to thank you very much for a great report and how much you guys put into this. Thanks a lot, I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Fritz.
Thank you, Mr. Neely. Vice President Everly?
Yes, thank you. On page 5, please. I would like you to repeat that for me, please.
Okay, so, about the self-insurance plan? Or-
Yes,
Okay, so
sure,
basically, yeah, so basically, this is the other operating funds from the district, the other funds for child development, adult education, but we also have 2 funds set aside for self-insured purposes. One of them is the self-insurance, the first one is mostly for workers' comp. We also have self-insured for dental and vision for the district, but most of that money is set aside for workers' comp claim. And then the second one is for to pay the health benefits of our retired employees. And basically, our last actuarial study showed that we had $100 million in district pay benefits, the liability for the district at this point in time.
So is this 58 million then kind of money on paper, or is it money that we have available that we can grab when we need it? Or
Oh, no, Mr. Heverly, no, that's the liability that they're showing. So they're saying that that the liability for the district is $100 million, and they split it. The part of it was for past services that were earned by our retired employees and current employees, and the other one is the $41 million for future services. The funds that we actually have is,
that's what it is.
yes, so the available pay that $58 million, really that $16 million or $18 million, yes.
18.
So the $18 million is the money that we will be using to pay for the benefits that have already been incurred for the $58 million throughout the life of the employees and our retired employees. We could always, we can, since the money is set aside in a self-insurance fund, we cannot tap into and take the money away. What we could do in the future, should the district be in economic difficulties or financial difficulty, is not make contributions to those funds. So we can't tap into it, we just don't contribute and let it go down.
I did have several questions on page 3, but between Mr. Neely's questions and your answers, they have been answered. That's all I have for now.
Thank you, Vice President Everly. Other questions of the board?
Questions, I just want to thank Maria and Kim for the full report. I did skim through 167 pages of that and very satisfied with it. Thank you.
And you did it during football season, no less, so. Ms. Castle.
Oh, just the same sentiment. It seems like such a daunting task, and you do it so well, and we appreciate the report and all your hard work, so thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, and I'll mention it to my staff.
Yes,
There was another sheet that came within that, the board information, and it was kind of listed all the different funds. So are those funds, let's say, the general fund, charter school fund, adult education fund, child development fund, cafeteria fund, and so on? Those are all within the general fund, or are they separate?
They are separate funds, so they are the same different slides that we have presented here. We just listed it. We just came out as a separate sheet because the electronic school board couldn't let us squeeze in all those numbers in there.
Okay. That's good, thank you.
right. Comments from the public?
Mr. Freitas, I move that we approve this audit report, 2015-16 on audit action report.
I'll second that.
Mr. Donovan, thank you for your motion. And Mr. Neely, thank you for your second. Student vote?
Aye.
2 ayes from the students. And call for the board vote. Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Hearn, Ms. Fong, what a pleasure. It is so nice to know that our district finances are well managed. Every dollar we save, obviously, is a dollar that we can put back in the classroom, and it's a dollar that we don't have to worry about. And every year your presentations get better and better, and we accept them with great confidence. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, President Freitas. And one other point that I didn't bring up and I'm somewhat proud of is that, as you said, there was a $1 million difference. And so I've told the board before, we've always been trying to go for a goal of 1% as far as what we budget to what is actual. And this year we are only 0.3%.
I was going to say, I wasn't good at math, that's why I ended up in my profession, but 1 million is less than 1%. So I do know that. Great job. Thank you so very much for the wonderful report. Mr. McKilligan, routine classified certificate personnel matters.
Mr. Freitas, routine personnel matters are presented for your consideration.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve these personnel matters.
Thank you, Mr. Nowell, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Womack, for your second. Students do not vote on personnel matters. Call for the vote. Motion carries 7-0. Communications to the board. We have comments from our student representatives, and I'll already introduce tonight to Carolyn and Jenica. If you decide which of the two are you going to go first tonight?
I guess I'll go first.
Okay, Jenica, what's going on at Tokay?
So good evening, Mr. President and members of the board. As far as our school activities and programs, the fall sports are up and going, and then our after-school program is still going, and it's offering the library after school, just a quiet place for the students to work, and also there's many tutoring sessions for different classes, and also we have a cooking class going on that just helps kids kind of stay active and learn some different things in the kitchen. And then we also have some new clubs on campus. We have wakeboarding club, and we also have a mock trial club, which the mock trial club also competes in different scenarios and things. And then involving more of our spirit weeks, we have coming up in October from the 24th to the 28th. And that week is also our week of homecoming. So homecoming is October 28th, and we'll have a parade at Tokay, which is like when we also get like golf carts, and then all the members of the court kind of drive around campus. Just a fun way to show who's on our court. And then the night rally is actually the night before homecoming, so that's just the actual introduction of the court members. And then the night of homecoming, we have the football game against West, and that's when the king and queen are announced. So that's exciting. And then we have that week of homecoming, the 24th, we're having a senior sunrise, so it's our bonding between the seniors, getting involved and just enjoying one last bonding experience. And then we also are having a PSAT on Wednesday, October 19th. That's to prepare for the college entrance exams offered to the sophomores and juniors mainly. And that's hosted in our Tokay gym. And then we just recently had a coastal cleanup event at Lodi Lake, which was beautifying Lodi's community, and it was just an offer for community service and just to pick up around Lodi. And then as far as upcoming events, we are going to have a blood drive in November.
Outstanding.
Mr. Dava?
Yeah, I was just saying, the sunrise, senior sunrise, how's that going?
Well, it's on Monday, October 24th, and it's mainly where the seniors of the class will get up early. Like, I think we're scheduling it to be around 5 in the morning or 5:30, and then we all come
to campus, and we're gonna host it inside like our track area, and so all the seniors are gonna meet in there, and it just like we all just hanging out kind of thing. And the good thing about that day is that it's pajama day for our Spirit Week, so we all get to wear pajamas too.
That's an excellent event for bonding, I think. I remember way back at the dark ages that was happening in our school. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
And the mock trial team, do you know who's your coach for that, or?
I think it is he's our AP European history teacher, Mr. Goldstein, is running that, and I think it's starting new this year, and so they're trying to get out, teach how it works. I'm not involved in this club specifically, but I know that they're going to, they're practicing to be more in a competitive environment, so, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the competition takes place around February, doesn't it, or thereabouts?
Maybe, yeah, I'm not quite
Yes,
sure.
yes, we've got a few coaches,
Okay.
you know, on the team. And Dr. Walsh, you had jury duty, right? We saw from your schedule.
Apparently you got me out of it.
Oh. Ranked has its privileges, so. Well, you had a lot of work to do this week. It was very important. Very nice. Well, very good. Thank you for the excellent report. Carolyn, how's Bear Creek?
Good evening, Mr. President and members of the board. For school activities, we just had a club rush, a very successful one. Many students joined many clubs, and we also have other new clubs too called, one of them is called Pets and Pals. It's like another community service but involving pets, and so that is going well. For student government, we're really enforcing the student leaders in the campus to really get involved with the school and the community. So what we did is that we got together with FFA, which is the Future Farmers of America class, and we had a campus cleanup day with them. And I believe every month we're going to be scheduling a lot of campus cleanups to beautify our school. And also the student leaders, the student government more specifically, we're asking for sponsorships from local businesses to support the school. So what we're doing is that we're asking local businesses to sponsor us so we can have banners hanging up in our gyms and around our football field. And so, yeah, so we're doing that right now. Our commissioner of publicity is contacting the School Loop, which I believe is a newspaper in Lodi, and we would be the featured school on the newspaper. We had a student council meeting, our very first one, and it's where we ask the student body for feedback, like concerns and questions and statements on our school activities on campuses. So the student council meeting is really involving other students in the whole entire school to have a voice on what we do and how we can make our school environment better than the way it is, or more better than the way it is. For events, we had a college and career night on August 29th, and we had a comedy sports event on September 14th, which had approximately 60 attendees. And we are rejuvenating the program, which is going very well. And our Lean Crew student leaders are hosting a haunted house. And this haunted house is more of a fundraiser for clubs. And the club will be renting out a classroom. And whatever they do, whenever the money they get, is to help their club spark up. And so last time I mentioned the Broomway curriculum. So now 2 students and 1 staff member every week will get selected as the Bruin of the Week based on the Broomway curriculum. Recipients are nominated by students and staff. And we also have an intro to law and order, and it has earned the designation of CP elective as a class. Also, Bear Creek has been recognized for our school spirit through social media, more specifically through our rallies and our spirit weeks and a lot of the student involvement. Our upcoming activities, next week we have Homecoming Week. We have Spirit Week and we have a homecoming dance October 1st. And October 15th, our student government class will be having another community service, and we'll be getting involved with the emergency food bank.
The food bank, who do we know on that for?
Yeah, we will know it.
Mr. Nava?
Yeah, I just had a question on the campus cleanup committee. Is that the whole school or clubs, or how does that run?
Well, right now it's mostly just the student government class with FFA, but slowly we're gonna have gather in some other clubs.
That would be neat to
Yeah.
get those people involved so they can take pride in their school. I'm sure they have pride now because it's such a spirited school, but just to keep them involved and make sure that some of those students will learn that instead of putting the garbage on the floor, put it on the garbage.
Yeah.
That's a nice feature you have there. And of course, your student council meetings also are open, you said?
Yes.
For students to raise any concerns?
Yes.
That's an excellent idea also because you give these students an opportunity to express what's right, what's wrong, what's indifferent, and all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Very nice, thank you.
Very good. And the haunted house.
Yeah.
You're gonna, the lead crew puts that on campus, or
Yes. I believe it's our first campus haunted house kind of.
do they have a spot that will be the gymnasium, or?
I'm not really sure on the details, but all I know is that clubs get to rent out a classroom for fundraising. So they can decorate a classroom however they want, and if students go in, then that's their fundraising.
So is it open to the public, or is it just gonna be for the students?
I believe it's open to the public. I have to check in.
It's not gonna be too scary for the little children.
Oh, no.
Right? Well, that's a great report, and new club, Pets and Pals, what a great way to teach responsibility. Ladies, very nice reports. Great to have you here. Thank you so much for coming. Moving on to comments. Michelle, you're up. Comments from employee groups?
I guess I am. Go ahead, go for it.
Sure.
Yeah, I should take you my seat.
Good evening, President Freitas, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. My name is John Hunt. I'm a counselor at Tokyo High School and president of LPPA. And I just wanted to give you a couple of points on exciting times in LPPA. Last year, the speech therapists were fairly vocal and reached out to Lodi Unified, and a lot of great things happened. There were numerous interviews at the end of the year that not only filled the positions, but when one came open at the beginning of this year, there was a surplus last year, and they were able to hire somebody that they'd interviewed. So the speech therapists are very happy these days as far as the ratios and what's happening there.
That's very good news.
Yeah, and yeah, it's good news for me too. So at LPPA meetings, they're still there, and I'm just excited for them that they're able to do the work they think they need to do. So that's great. The other thing I'd like to do is let the board know we appreciate the effort to put leads in 4 of the subgroups in LPPA. The leads help to give a voice to LPPA, and we really feel like we've been listened to in a number of ways. Talk to us from the district to include us in interviews at the district level and site levels, and we feel like we're appreciated and listened to. The counselors, the elementary counselors, again, exciting, bringing back positions the last 3 years through LCAP, and that's been awesome. The middle schools, with the addition of 2, put them fully staffed at the middle schools, and I can't tell you how important that is and how much that's helped them. So I'd like to communicate thanks from them. Our lead, Lyndon Blodgett, is doing a number of things to help out at the high school level. And high school counselors, it's kind of exciting times. There's a new block grant you're probably going to be hearing about to increase ratios or percentage rates for graduation and A through G completion to college, especially for aren't traditionally successful in that area. And so there's going to be funds to help high school counselors get back to a lot of things that they really like to do. There's talk about Naviance, there's talk about block grants, there's talk about sophomore counseling returning. There's things that I haven't heard for years, so we're really excited about that. The district also was supportive to send a number of counselors to the Central Valley Counseling Summit along with an administrator. It's the first time they've ever required an administrator to go. So, of course, Paul Warren jumped up and said, "I'll go." I'm pretty sure that's how it happened. And so he joined us, and we went and spent 2 days with Trish Hatch. And basically the goal is to align ourselves with the ASCA model, which is the Association for Counselors at the national level. And there's a lot of things we could be doing, and we're excited about getting to do. And there's manuals for the district counselor staff and a number of things that we're looking forward to getting on with. So that's pretty exciting. One of our current concerns remains ratios at the high school level, but again, there's so many positive things that are happening. We're really encouraged by the movement in general. And we're looking forward in a couple weeks to negotiation starting. And so that's exciting. One of our challenges as well is the psychologists. There's a state shortage, as you know, in our district. They can't seem to find, and it's not a surprise, a lot of districts in the state are in the same issue. So our psychologists are currently 4 short, and they're working on, doing the best they can in the meantime. And LPPA looks forward to, working with them in the district to find ways to recruit and retain qualified psychologists. So, we're looking forward to doing what we can there. Looking forward to negotiations. And the other thing I'd like to invite any the LPPA union has a website. And I'm going to be sending the board members an invitation with that website. And you can go on and you can see who our e-board is on our executive board, and you can see who is on our negotiations team and generally the goals of LPPA. And we were excited to see a lot of you at the college night. We had a table there, and we're just excited to kind of hopefully affect kids and make life better for students and all unified. So thank you very much. And I do encourage you as well to get in contact with me if you have any questions or if you want to contact any counselors. We're always looking forward to reaching out, as well as any of the other subgroups in LPPA. Thank you.
John, very nice report. Thank you very much. Michelle.
Good evening, President Freitas, Dr. Washer, members of the board,
Good evening.
and student representatives. Nice to see you. And I'd like to recognize also my brothers and sisters tonight here in blue. We have a few things to first share. Did you know the fabulous things that are happening in LUSD? We want to showcase a couple tonight. First, we have 2 brand new teachers who have changed careers, become teachers, and have tackled Read 180 and System 44, Danielle Montoya and Nate Cha. Great job. Your fellow teachers recognize the hard work. Next is Cindy Reichert at Larson. Her colleagues there have noted that you have continued to stay upbeat and show extreme professionalism under the very challenging conditions of changing grade levels and classrooms after the start of the school year. Julie Perotti at Oakwood, your peers commend you for stepping up and mentoring a new intern at your site. Next, Beth Pittman. You show others in our state what Lodi teachers do. Kinder teachers recognize your accomplishments being a presenter at the Kinder Conference. They also love that you are blazing the trail for alternative seating for students. Wendy Morgan. From Murata, you have gone above and beyond. You have personally taken a student to the eye doctor who needed glasses because the parent was unable to do so. These are just a few examples of some of the dedicated and hardworking teachers you have in LUSD. I'd like to give you an update, a state of affairs, as you will, since our last meeting. So the beast in that room is overall morale. School sites are still reporting problems with Common Planning Day. Sites have been given questions from their admin to answer, share out at a table, then a whole group. Or they're given some time to collaborate, but then have to meet back together to share out what they did. Really? Do my colleagues want to hear what I discussed and planned for in a set of lessons or benchmarks? I'd rather spend that time collaborating more extensively. I know we usually, in the past, have gone over longer past the common planning time when we are left to plan, articulate, and continue planning. I've heard from special education teachers. They're receiving conflicting information about common planning days. What are the must-dos and the may-dos? Do they choose a job? Do they choose a job-alike meeting, or do they stay at their site? At their site, they work as a team. They see value in that. But they also see value in some of the job-alikes. But whichever they choose, they are missing out. Some have been given homework if they miss out on one of the events that they choose. So now they feel punished. There must be a way to offer multiple opportunities. How about making an optional podcast? If you can't make one of the job-alikes, maybe we have a high-tech podcast that they can go and get that information on. Just an idea. There are still safety concerns. There are some teachers that believe the district does want a safe and clean classroom for students and employees. But as a board member has reported to you that a classroom had not been cleaned over summer, we want you to know that this situation is more common than not. You need to know that those extra things that teachers are doing in their classroom. With regards to classrooms, we need to point out that teachers take a request seriously to have you test the air quality in their classroom. They do not take making that request lightly. So if a teacher is requesting an air quality test, they're suspicious of something. How long should they wait to hear from M&O? Let's honor that request. I remember last year you wanted to be notified of any of those health and safety concerns. Let's follow up with those findings in a timely manner. Teachers are getting mixed messages on what's required, from risk management to curriculum to testing. I think you heard some of the testing challenges tonight from my kindergarten colleague. They want to do what's right. Everyone here knows that keeping teachers and not losing them to other districts is important. You need to know that the district announced a health fair the day before the event. How is this giving them the respectable notice they need? If I had small children, I wouldn't be able to make it because of daycare issues. Is this respectable notice for teachers? It's not. Well, they also didn't have the prices for each of those health insurance plans released to members, so they could seek out information if they needed to change plans. Especially because changed in cost. A plan was acting to, it's not. Health insurance plans have gone up, but so has the cost of living, from the cost of milk and cereal to daycare, the cost of housing. You have many teachers here working more than one job to make ends meet. Did you know that? Each day, teachers are being asked to do more and more. That dollar is not going as far as it did. We hope that you understand, to keep these teachers, you have to find a way for comparable salary and benefits. They need working conditions that are clean and safe. They need to be treated like professionals and given respect for the jobs they do. They are stakeholders as well for many lives. They want LUSD to be the best. They also know, as new teachers look to LUSD, they're first looking at salary and benefits. But next, they come talk to us. They ask us, what is it like to work for Lodi Unified? Depending on how you look at it, most teachers are brutally honest. They are looking at the 7 of you for direction going forward at the bargaining table, which includes salary and benefits, but also collaboration time, professional development, recruiting substitutes, class sizes that are appropriate, classrooms that are clean and safe, and that we think ahead about what is respectable notice. We look forward to returning to the table on Thursday. I know with the courageous conversations and respect on both sides that we can work together towards a change of the morale of our district. Let's make LUSD the destination, both to learn and to teach. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Deborah?
No, thanks. Anyway.
All right. All right. Thank you for the comments from our employee group representatives. Comments from board members. Who would like to go first? Mr. Neely.
Be quick. Okay, Carolyn Jenka, thank you so much. Great reports. I really appreciate that. Jenka, you mentioned a cooking class after school. I used to teach a cooking class after school at Creekside.
Yeah.
It was the most popular after school event there was, because not only did they get to cook it, they get to eat it.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. I love to hear all the stuff that's going on out there. Also, I was out at Tokay today. I made the grave error of going there, trying to get there at 2:20. I wasn't paying attention. There's, hey, I gotta go to Tokay. So I went to Tokay, and I gotta tell you, trying to get in that parking lot when everybody was getting out of it was not easy. But just a little note, everyone was so respectful and let me through. I guess they took pity on the old guy, you know. This thing about the Common Planning Day and collaboration, I guess I just don't like it. It's just so easy to do. You know, we just say, here's your time. Enough said. I agree with that. They'll figure it out. All right, they know what needs to be talked about, so they can do that. Also, I'm a little concerned about the air quality thing, because I thought we had fixed that. Michelle, if you've got specific incidences, would you please email those to me? Because I thought that was supposed to have been done, and this may have been some old thing, I don't know, but let's find out, okay? And I know you've got a reason for that day on the health fair. One day, I mean, I'll talk to you about that later. But that one day notification, that's not enough. But I think also on the healthcare thing, I believe the union picks those when they change. Is that not right?
No.
What's that? Oh, they said the rates. No. All right. Well, I need to become a little better educated on that. I got military, so I never use it. Way back then. But you got some valid points. John, thank you very much for the report. I do appreciate it. Your name came up, I was okay today, and I got to tell you, it was all in a very positive way. So thank you very much. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, Mr. Neely. Other comments from the board? Mr. Womack.
Just a couple of things. Thanks again to our student representatives. Cleaning up the lake, I think that's a great thing. And being a board member on the Emergency Food Bank, I'm glad that you're collaborating with the food bank as well. And perhaps you would like to have some students volunteer for the run and walk against hunger on Thanksgiving as well. I'm the race director for that, so we'll be happy to hear from you on that. And also, as I've said many times before, I read every Friday at Creekside. And I've gotten to know the staff and the teachers there and Ms. McMaster, and they've been putting a real push on bringing Alexa out sport, all the reading for the last couple of years, including her kissing a pig, so that on the contest and stuff like that. And the second and third graders, currently in the latest assessment, we're averaging 72% proficient in or above. So I think that is a significant increase from where they were a couple of years ago. So I commend them on that. And that's all I have.
Mr. Womack, thank you. Other comments from the board? Vice President Everly.
I was trying to wait this time. Thank you. Some of the things that have been brought up kind of obviously hit a nerve with somebody other than just myself, and one of them is the CP days. Having to report out, I think that's extremely disrespectful. Give them the time that they need and treat them like professionals and get over it. The air quality too is, we talked about it a lot in the last school year. And it's yeah, it is expensive, it is a process. However, it is a very real thing. I was in charge of facilities when I was working, and it was amazing just how frequently that happens if just the slightest thing goes wrong. And it's not one of those things that can just go away by just hoping it goes away. So, let's make a stronger effort to make sure that we get those types of things cleared up, do it, get it over with, and let's move on and fix it. One of the things that was brought up also was, I termed it under the risk management with the Keenan videos. I can't tell you how many times I hear about those. So we'll be having a discussion on that. I think it's kind of problematic in more than one way. Also, as Mr. Neely said, the cooking class, it was kind of interesting because it was like 2 days ago, I was talking to someone just about an after-school cooking class that they do, and telling me how great it is and how much the kids really enjoy it. And that's actually a good skill, because eventually you're going to have to cook yourself. But it's more than that. It's nutrition. It's finding a good value and variety of foods and all that. And what came to my mind was, hey, I wonder if food service could kind of jump in every once in a while and kind of help support it. Because a lot of times, come on, they've got the expertise, they've got the resources and the information. So I think it might be a good thing for our food service to kind of dovetail some of their things into a cooking class wherever they are. And with that, that's it. Thank you much.
Very good. Any other comments from the board? Further comments from the superintendent?
Mr. President, just a clarification on the name of the future school, Sam Geffen.
Sam. William was his brother. Sam Gavin. Well, a true hero, either way. And I'm glad our predecessors made that commitment, and I'm honored that someday we hope to keep that. So, very good. We have a couple report items on tonight's agenda. The first being a board follow-up on the Apple devices in the classrooms. And Mr. Hearn?
Thank you, President Freitas. If we could bring up that PDF. The use of non-district standard devices, in this case Apple versus PCs, were discussed at the board meeting, and the consensus of the board was to let it go to the technology committee. The technology committee did recommend that the courses be allowed to use the Apple devices. This is year 1 through year 4 on a refresh program, with a total of 274 computers. Its cost, we would require additional support for that different platform and devices, and overall cost over the 4-year period. And this particular additional cost, the difference between the $800,000 and the $361,680 would have to be built into the 1.5 portion of the LCAP for technology devices.
So I saw this when I was reviewing our agenda. So what you're saying, if we didn't go to Apple, it would cost us $361,000, and by going to Apple over 4 years, it's going to cost us $800,000.
Right, and it's a different, since the courses require a PC of some sort or an Apple, it would require a little more sophisticated device to be able to run the types of software. So you're just looking at the difference of the cost, and then also the additional support costs, since it is a different platform.
So your understanding would be then that to do this with a sophisticated PC would be under the 361. Is that what that is?
That's what it would cost with the sophisticated PC.
And then to do with the apple, we're talking of the difference of, again, about 440.
Yeah, 440,000.
Wasn't good enough, so.
Yeah, that's a good thing. And question,
Okay, coming from the
when
board,
you're through.
Mr. Tompkins?
Just, well, what my question is the 274 devices, additional devices that are need to be purchased?
No, this is what the devices that would be needed to replace on a refresh plan. The only difference would be, is it an Apple platform or a PC platform? But the issue was originally brought up because we were looking at the refresh program, and next year, some of those Apples were going to start aging out. And under the original district plan, they would have been replaced with a PC and not an Apple.
Okay. I like apples.
Very good.
A pie?
What kind of apple? Gay one or?
Well, I like Macintosh especially.
Very good. Other comments from the board? Ms. Castle?
I'll keep talking if one of you don't go home.
Keep ladies are good.
I just want to make a brief comment about the nature of a lot of these classes and curriculum that use the Apple devices, journalism, student newspapers, graphic arts, that type of thing. We have some stunningly brilliant productions that come out of these classes, award-winning, especially in the terms of student newspapers. And I have watched this for decades, literally, and I know that a lot of the students that have gone through these classes have then gone on and made careers out of what they've learned in these types of classes. And so I am a very fierce advocate for the students using the Apple devices that are the best in the industry, and that they'll use them later on in careers, no doubt. So I'm advocating for this, and I'm pleased that it's been brought to the board.
Thank you, Ms. Castle. Mr. Neely?
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I looked at this, Tim, and I thought, this is reminiscent of something I might try to put together, because it can be a little misleading here. Now, we've got the cost of the apples is $548,000, and the cost of the PCs is $361,000, but we've also put in there the cost of an extra FTE. Now, we're not increasing any devices, but we're increasing the number of FTE here. So that means one of two things: either we could get rid of one of the other support people, or we could train that support person to do the Apple, which would probably be more preferred. But I don't think you're truly adding a whole nother support. Now, I know you're probably going to talk about the integration issues and that kind of thing, but I think that we can get the help with that. We don't need the FTE. So I don't think the number reflects the true additional costs that it will be done. And that's just my opinion.
Very nice. Good. Thank you, Mr. Neely. Mr. Everly?
Yeah, I was also questioning the same thing. We have apples right now, and there are people who can work on them right now. And I understand that they were talking more in the lines of the network kind of thing. But, we require people throughout the district to learn new things. Let's say, what have we thrown at our teachers? New language artists. We're trying to get them more instructional technology. We're trying to get them Common Core. And they have to learn that. Well, I'm confident that the people that we have in IS will be able to quickly adapt to Apple. So I also agree that I think this might be kind of a little bit added to it for the support costs. a couple of things that was, and I think it's noteworthy to mention kind of what went on at the technology committee meeting. And a lot of the questions were asked, and it was unanimous from what I saw that those courses be allowed to have apples. And the term non-district standard, well, that to me is secondary than the industry standard. Our children have to have the industry standard. I taught ROP for several years, and we had advisory groups that we actually had to report to as the instructors. And their goal was to make sure that what we were teaching the kids was relevant to what they're going to see out in the job market. And I think that was the feel of the committee, is that, yeah, apples are the industry standard. They are relevant. That's what those courses need. Just like any other course that we are providing, we want to make sure that they transition into the workforce. So I absolutely support the use of the Apple devices in the classroom. And I'll say it before, I've said it already twice before, but instruction should dictate what technology we use, not technology dictate what instruction uses. So, and that there is no disrespect intended by that. It's just my view is that this is what is needed, and I'm all for going to the Apple devices.
Thank you, Vice President Heberly. Other comments from the board? Mr. Womack.
Just a question for Mr. Hearn. The additional cost, where does that money come from?
It would have to be through the gap funding with LCFF, and we would have to make an adjustment. And again, the support cost is what our recommendation is from our technology staff, from our professionals, we believe. And we are going to, as we have increased with our technology, we have other FTE that are coming on board to be able to handle the huge volume of just devices that we have in the district. Standardization makes it easier for us to be able to accomplish what we need to accomplish with a economy of cost. But again, there's no recommendation not to do this. This was just a report of what occurred and what we believe the cost will be. Now, if we can do it without additional support, that's fine. But I know right now my technology department is stretched so thin that they have difficulties keeping up with what we're doing right now. And adding another platform will be more work, and we will have to add additional staff, not just for these apples, but for the many, many devices that we now have in the district. And again, there's no recommendation not to do this. The board made it clear that they wanted to go forward with it. We are just reporting out what we believe the cost would be and the difference.
I understand. My question was just where the money come from. And so
it will be the gap funding.
I think it should go for Lisa's money.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other comments from the board?
Just one quick one. As Mr. Hearn said, his technology department stretched very thin. If you did follow this, that would help alleviate that problem as well. And so it may help us across the board.
And we are one device. So. Comments from the public? Hi, Ann.
Hi. I just went to the tech summit that the County Office of Ed put on a couple weekends ago. I can't remember, 2 weekends ago. And Charles Taylor, who's one of our people, did a presentation, and I went to that. And he was talking about how many devices we had and how many tech people we had in the past, kind of where we got to one-on-one. That was his topic. And before I didn't take a picture of the slide because it just, there used to be all these people upstairs doing all this great work, and then the budget cuts came, and I think the number of devices were 8,000 that were out there, and now there's a device in every kid's hand, and there's like 8 guys. I don't know if they're all guys, but 8 people. There's no way they can do what they're doing. They need like 15, 20 more people up there. So one person is nothing to get them. The kids need the apples, but they need people up there like there's nobody business. I mean, they are great with teachers. When we call, they do all that they can. But it was dumb, I was dumbfounded by the number. And if you want that slide, get from Charles Taylor, he'll send it to you. It will blow your mind how many people they don't have versus the number of devices and the types of devices, and everyone's got a thin client or whatever. And if you're buying Macs, let's bring those back to the teacher. So I'm turning my HPN every 2 years. That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Yes.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I'm one of the instructional coaches, and so
We're
sometimes
gonna
when
need your name
I'm
first.
sorry, I forget all that formality. Beverly Winchester, instructional coach.
Thank you.
One of the things I do when I go around to different classrooms is to help teachers wherever they are. I call it the ultimate differentiation, because I never know K-12 what I'm going to be covering and what I'm going to be doing. But one of the things I do frequently is help teachers with technology. And I sometimes am on the phone calling for them during their class time because they don't have the time to do that. And I was amazed these last several days how many times I was the 8th or the 10th. One time I think I was even the 12th caller with a 28-minute projected wait time, which is pretty cool that we have that system to tell us that. Because a few times I just hung up and just called back. But that's beyond what a regular classroom teacher can do. They cannot call and be put on hold for 28 minutes. We really do need our tech support people. We cannot be this technology rich, this technology demanding in our curriculum, and it's crossing every content, and not have the support it takes. Talk about respect, not just respecting the teacher's time, respecting our students' time. They need the teacher's attention. They don't need the teacher trying to be on the computer doing a web ticket, which half the time we don't even know how to explain it. You just need to be talking to the people. That's the best way to get it done. We really need those tech support people. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Just a comment, I like the term that you used is technology rich, and I believe our district is that way. And in order to make it actually usable very consistently, that's primary.
It's
Because
not
we're-
only primary, it's the challenge.
Absolutely, always is. And in no way do I think that we have enough people in technology. So
And I would say right
I
now.
just didn't
no.
like it dovetailed into this like it was the only thing, because it is a mix and we do need more support.
Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Roger Wu. I'm the yearbook teacher and English teacher at Tokay. And I really wanted to let you know that I appreciate the board members who support the use of Apple computers for these specialty classes. Because the idea is that it makes our job a lot easier because the machines are more reliable and it helps us make their job easier. Oh, even though it's as tough as it is, I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Well, Roger, we appreciate you because if I recall, you were here last year telling us that we'd made a mistake. And because of that, that was brought to our attention and this is all going forward. So thank you very much. And this is showing that the system works. Also shows our commitment to our students, that we want to put them in the best situation to succeed. Especially like Ms. Council pointed out, these types of classes, I think having Apple computers is absolutely critical. And Mr. Hearn, thank you for your staff for putting this together and figuring out how to make this happen. So coming up with $1 million isn't very easy, but financing over 4 years, genius. So thank you very, very much.
Oh, well, I'm just kind of curious, when can we start ordering these guys, if we can?
I would imagine tomorrow morning, so.
Sounds good, thank you.
Oh, very good. So this is a report item only, so there is no vote to be taken on it. And thank you, everyone, for this.
Yeah. 16, 17, annual, and again, this will be indicated in the LCAP as we go through the LCAP process.
Right.
I do have a question for clarification in that regard. In Mr. Wu's case, he actually has the money for Apple computers. Why couldn't he order them now? He has to fill out a non-district standard form? Is that correct?
Yes.
So once he fills that out, the answer will be yes, and then he could order them. Okay, very good, thank you.
Our second report item tonight which is a discussion on the California teacher shortage and strategies to address the teacher shortage, Lodi Unified, including the need for long-term substitutes. Dr. Washer.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Board member had requested some information on teacher shortage and strategies. And so Mr. McKilligan is going to briefly take you through the presentation and then ask you for your discussion.
All right, the presentation we put together for you has first two slides you'll notice, report on some of the information for you to understand the larger shortage throughout California and how it's impacting some of the larger districts. The third slide talks about the challenges for LUSD to some of the issues that we are facing with our shortage that we've experienced. The next two slides after that talk about some of the current strategies that are currently being used to address that need here in Lodi Unified. And then the final slide presents some additional strategies which have either been suggested or we've heard about in other places, et cetera, that could be considered, but aren't necessarily being considered. So with that, I guess we open up for discussion or questions anybody may have about the teacher shortage.
Thank you. Comments from the board?
I guess I'll start.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. On the additional strategies to consider that, it does say that, it's not a recommendation, these are ideas. And the whole reason I wanted to bring it up was not to, point the finger at anybody. It was just like, hey, there's a problem, so let's recognize it, let's discuss it, and try to find some options to mitigate it as best possible. So, in no way do I think that we're ever going to eliminate that whole list of those vacancies that you gave us. I shouldn't say vacancies, because some of them were, let's say, maternity. Well, we know that. We can see what those numbers are, and that will be kind of a constant thing. And then the different categories, the vacancy category, that's the one that's tough. And that's the one I was trying to, let's think about it. Let's come up with some ideas. And I know one of them that was talked about is, I guess the very first one, it says not releasing teachers under contract. Well, sure, that could be one. I just don't think that's a great one. Because the last thing I want to do is keep somebody on board who wants to leave. That just may not end well. So, but there's all kinds of other things. Going out to, the teacher college, going out to the classes, trying to get, first of all, they have to know that we need them. I guess a broad category is we need to go ahead and establish good working environments, because those actually do translate to good learning environments. And if we can make as many things kind of little glitches, we want to make sure things are in great shape in the classroom. We've already talked about that. Whether they're clean or there's maintenance, the sink doesn't work, get it fixed, because really that's where the service point of contact is at the site. And so that's kind of one of those things that we can do to make a better environment. Also, a well-supplied school site, so that the teachers can feel like they've got those kinds of materials that they need if they want. I mean, we want energetic, innovative teachers, and a lot of times they will require a little bit more in the way of supplies and materials. So give it to them. A lot of the things, I'm not sure on the report item, what you're looking from us. I was looking, for the staff to come up with some ideas in addition to what we have, and that what we're already doing. So what do you think that they were just on a piece of paper, what would work, what wouldn't work?
Well, I think the answer to that is because of the shortage and because it's not the first time we've been through it, those 2 pages of things we're doing are the things that we think are the best things to do. And so that is what we're doing. I don't know what the additional things are. If someone thinks there's something else that we could be doing, we'd certainly be open to it. However, some of these things on the additional strategies page are things that cuts both ways. There's positives and negatives to doing it that way. You mentioned the first one, not releasing people under contract. You'll notice under our current strategies, we do the flip side. We actually, if somebody does need to go and they've got a pressing situation or something's changed in their life, we work with them and try not to make them feel bad about going. We try to make sure it's an open door. And by doing that, we've had a lot of teachers that something comes up and they've had to leave and the door's open and they don't feel like they can't come back. And we've had many teachers come back within 3-4 years, sometimes even within the same year. Things don't work out where they go and we're able to take them right back. So we see that so far as a positive, keeping that door open to them. But that's the flip side of what some districts do, which is if someone comes in and says they want to go, they say, we're not releasing you. If you go, we're reporting you to CTC.
And that's the kind of thing that you want to make it more of as positive environment as possible. Because just last school board meeting, we ended up hiring a teacher that left a year ago. So that's great. And they feel like, oh, you know, I'm not going to be blackballed or something like that from coming back to Lodi Unified. And it's just, I want to make sure that we are actually carrying through everything that we possibly can. And I didn't know if you had an option that maybe, hey, this is a great option, but it might cost money. And that's why it's okay, bring it forward. We'll discuss it and see if it's something that would give us a positive result from it. So, you know.
Can I share something with you? I think one of the things you mentioned earlier is important. I think that we probably all have to look at this. This is not just a personnel issue. Working in Lodi Unified, if it is viewed as a positive experience to people, they will come. Now, whether we'll fill every vacancy in the current climate, I can't promise that. But certainly the best we can do is if everybody on every front views it as a positive place to be, and there are lots of ways to do that. And I do think that overall, just the climate, the working environment here is what will make people want to come here. So I think it's bigger than just a matter of whether, like you said, you can see some of these things are specifically outreach, and we've developed relationships with each of the universities. Those are all good, and they actually do yield results. But I think overall, it's all of us. If we make this a great place, people will come. And I honestly do believe right now, in our county at least, Lodi Unified is viewed as a positive place to come. Because when we go out to recruitment fairs, we have a lot of people that will go over and interview with another district, and they'll offer them a contract right then and there. And then they'll come over and ask us, I really want to come and work for you guys. And we don't interview them right then and there, because we're not going to offer them a contract, say, yes, sign here and you can work for us. We'll let you know where you're working a week before school, because that's what they're getting from the other districts. In most cases, we say, we're going to have you go out, meet with the staff, and they're going to recommend you. And when they recommend you, you know that they want you, and you can tell us if you want to accept that site where you're likely teaching that grade level or that subject area. Could be a little changes depending on seniority and whatnot as to what that grade level or that specific sections might be. So we do have a lot of people come to us and they actually do want to come work for us. So I think that is overall would be very positive.
Two things, and if I could follow up
on that. So on your additional strategies, you have a centralized hiring process. And that's you're saying where we differ from this. Well, they do come in, personnel put their application, we send them to a site that ultimately makes the hiring decision, or?
Yes, the selection. I want to say the hiring is that the selection process in our district is decentralized.
As opposed to running a
centralized committee, say for elementary teachers or English teachers, we don't have a centralized committee that interviews all the applicants and says, I'd like to offer a contract to you, and you. We're going to send you to okay, you to Bear Creek, and you to McNair, or you to Ansel Adams, you to Reese, etc. We don't set it up that way. When we do it, we allow the sites to form an interview team. They meet with the people, get a sense of that person, how they operate, they're gonna fit with that staff, they feel comfortable, they recommend them. And then we give them the offer based on
And it
that.
gives the applicant an opportunity too to look at us and see if this is gonna work for them.
Absolutely.
So, very good. Thank you for explaining it. Thank you for letting me interrupt.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Yeah, the two things were is I really like what you said at the very beginning, is that, you know, a lot of times when you're in an agency, each individual department within that agency, a lot of times may not feel that they're, I don't know how you say it, in a nice way, not as important, because they all are. Everybody has an effect on where we want to go, whether it's transportation or food service or maintenance and operations, technology. That's a big one. And so all of those need to know that they are absolutely a part of the work environment, and they can seriously benefit our customers as best they can. So I like that idea, and I want to make sure that let's do that. The second thing was what Mr. Freitas was talking about is the centralized versus decentralized. I think it's a great idea to have it decentralized. Like I said, both sides get to look at where they may get or where they may go. In that, I'm kind of curious as to if you could walk me through how that process works, because they have to come to you first, whether it's adjoint or however. So let me know how that goes.
Okay. We have two different kinds of things just so you understand this. Elementary positions are a little different than secondary, because elementary positions, the credentialing is good from pre-kindergarten or like TK all the way up to 6th grade, actually through 8th grade if it's self-contained. So you got half the schools that are half the classes in the district. We got half the teachers almost are credentialed to teach any of it, technically, okay? And then you have the other half of the district where it's very specific credential areas, the sections they're going to teach. Okay, so we post the positions by those credential areas. The reason we do that is because on EdJoin, when somebody hits that button to apply for a position to a district, it goes into essentially a queue, if you will. It goes into a bank, and that's where that data lies. So with elementary, for instance, it doesn't matter what the grade level or what the school is, we advertise elementary positions so that they go into one bank if they're interested in an elementary position. And then we make that bank available to anyone who has that credential need. So, and then from that point, that would be the administrators, they can go in and take a look at who's in there, and then they can then identify people to invite for an interview to their site. So they form their site committee, find out who's interested in participating, their team meets with the person or persons, interview them, and if they might interview 7 people, choose to recommend, they want to recommend 4, and they'll put them in order of who their preferences are, and they might not recommend 3 of those people. That recommendation comes into us, we take a look at that. There are reference checks involved in it, so the site has to make a few reference calls. We have to give them a form and some ideas how to conduct that. And then as long as they've done that process, then we will contact the individual and we will make the offer to them in the order that the site has indicated that their order of preference. So, and that's similar, whether it's in elementary, whether it's in English, whether it's math, PE, etc. So is that enough, or are you looking for a little more detail?
I just want to make sure that when a candidate, and I think it's probably more for secondary because it's kind of subject specific.
Okay.
Let's say now you have someone who is a math teacher. How would the principal then be able to discern whether, I need this person because it's a calculus position I'm looking for, versus somebody who maybe has different math emphasis?
There's a little bit more of a requirement of understanding credentialing at the secondary level because it's much more complex. So when when the principal is looking, and now I will tell you that in some situations, we will advertise, say, a science. In the beginnings of the process, like in January, February, we'll put one out for science. Anybody with any science credential will go in there. Now they can go in there and look, and they can see the credentials of the people. So if they're specifically looking for a chemistry teacher, they can look and see what credentials the person has in there, because that's in this part of the application. So the principal does inherently have to understand what credential they need for the sections that they're going to be offering this person to teach. And we assist them with that. So, but sometimes we'll have to get very specific. If we're not finding enough people, we will then get more specific with the posting. Like for instance, geoscience is a difficult one to find at the secondary level. So we may put out a posting specifically for geoscience credentials, hoping that somebody out there can say, oh, I didn't know Lodi is actually looking for geoscience. It's not likely that happens, but we do it just to see.
Yeah, that was kind of one of the things with EdJoin is it seemed like some of them were very non-specific.
Right.
Like you said, we're looking for science. At what point then do we start looking at geo then and doing more specific? Is it, we're not talking like July or anything like that.
We're doing it in July because usually we're rehearsing still in July, but we start sooner than that.
See the list, yes. Yeah. And see what that does then, that puts us kind of behind the 8 ball too, because some of them have already gotten contract offers from somewhere else.
Well, I can tell you though, in concert with us going out and visiting individual teachers, individual university professors in their classrooms, and outreach to the universities themselves, the departments that are teacher prep, et cetera, and taking in student teachers, which is one of the biggest things we can do, is accommodating student teachers from the universities. Because if you take a student teacher, they tend to connect with the school they're at. They connect with the people they're at, they develop those relationships, and it gives the site a feeling of whether this person would work well, et cetera. So it's a huge in for our district. UOP has traditionally placed, if not all, darn near close to most of their student teachers in elementary they place in our schools. And that's been a huge advantage to us. But in concert with that, we start posting right at the beginning of the year, right after the January 1st weekend or wherever that falls in when we come back from the break. We put on EdJoin, we put almost every subject area on there just to get the queue established and up for anybody who's coming out and thinks they might want to work here in Lodi Unified. And the word's out with the universities. We've met with as many instructors who will allow us to come into their classroom, et cetera. So that all together kind of paves the way.
Who in your office, I don't need a name, but you have someone in your office that goes out there and does, I guess, basically the contact and the presentations to, hey, come with us, look at us, teach with us, and we have positions open. We'd like you to show some interest in applying. You have somebody that.
Yeah, that would be me or the director of personnel, traditionally the ones that go out there, because we want to make sure those students know it right from the top in personnel. We're involved in this, we want them to see our face, know we really want them, et cetera.
What month does that usually occur?
It all depends on the university professors. We work with them, it's oftentimes in the fall, but toward the end of the time period. The thing is, you gotta understand, they get just, I don't know if it's politics or just equal access kind of an issue. If they're gonna let us in their classroom, they often feel an obligation to also let Stockton Unified, Lincoln, because all the districts are doing this. And so oftentimes they'll tell us when we can come on a particular night at a particular time, and we'll go in and speak with them. So traditionally over the years, I've gone to professors at Stanislaus, they're interested in letting us in, and some don't want to, because it means that they're gonna have to let a series of different people from the districts come in. It takes away from their instructional time. But most of them will do it. Some of them will ask us to come like 15 minutes before the class actually starts and tell the students that we'll be there. So it varies by the university professor.
And you said the fall, so is that most of the visits that you do? Or? Yeah,
but it'll happen again sometimes in the spring, depending on what class. It depends on what classes are being offered. Sometimes they'll let us come in the spring when they're getting ready to do the kids are starting to do their finishing up their student teaching assignments. And we'll get a chance to go in and meet with them in our class period there, but it varies by when they're willing to let us know.
I have one last question, but I'll let others go.
Mike, you got a tough job, that's all I gotta say. I mean, you're doing it properly, I think, where else were you gonna get? You've got teacher shortage and you're trying all your best to do what you're doing, and we can't ask for any more.
Thank you, Mr. Mallard. Other comments?
Grace? Mr. McKelligan, do you see this as this current position we're in as being short-term, and what do you see as the long-term outlook for the number of teachers?
You know, my personal opinion?
Anything you know about this?
I think it's a cycle. I think it's going on. If you look longer than most of a lot of us that come into this situation, we look at it from the time we started and going forward. If you look back and you look forward, you realize it's a cycle. And you watch as the money comes and as the money goes, or as it shrinks and as it grows statewide. I see it as a cycle. I think right now, we're in the same cycle we were in the 2000s. And around the year 2000, 2001, there was a bunch of money came back. I forget what it was called. It was the return of the deferrals. Huh? The deficit. The deficit came back. Remember, there was a year there around 2000, 2001 where a lot of districts were able to have about 8%, 7 or 8 to 10% or something like that. They were able to settle their employees. It was a huge year. And after that, districts reduced class size, hired a lot of people in, hired a lot of coaching positions and support positions, and we sucked up all the teachers that were out there, and they were all employed. Then all of a sudden, we got to the end of that money cycle of the state, around 2007, 2008, started drying up. We started making drastic cuts. We started not hiring things, cutting back things, and to the point where in 2009, 10 or something, we were at that really crisis point. We'd already been cutting for 2-3 years. And also we had to do this massive layoffs, and it was negotiated for concessions statewide. And all of a sudden, a lot less teachers were employed for a number of years. Our substitutes were mostly our former credentialed teachers. We were keeping them constantly, we weren't even able to keep them all busy. But by seniority, we were keeping most of our classes that had needed subs. They were our fully credentialed teachers previously who were filling those spots. And then also the money started to come back in the last couple of years. The money's come back. Districts have, the money's back out with staff. The ranks of the teachers have grown. There aren't enough people again. I imagine this is going to last until the next crisis, and also whether it's going to be as severe as last time where it's a layoff, or whether it's just a matter of they're just not able to hire as many people and it slows down. But I think it's a factor of how much money is available to districts.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much. Can you go to the last page there? Okay, you got it there. I just want to take a look at those real quick and give you my opinion on this. Do not reduce teachers on the contract. I don't agree with that. The ones here, hire credentialed teachers regardless of work history. No, that's not a good idea. All right, adjust staffing ratios. That is increasing class size. Is that the same thing?
Same thing.
Okay. All right. No. I don't think we should go there either. I mean, we got to get our way through this. The next three there, I believe, are negotiated items, aren't they?
They are.
Okay. So we're not negotiating here. I want to make that clear. We're just discussing things in general. Okay. Because one of the things that I read that new teachers look for, and I certainly look for, was well, actually my main thing was the area. But another thing was, starting salary is an important thing. For some reason, we've come to believe in Lodi Unified that we have to have this square schedule, that everything steps up 3% every year. But maybe we don't have to have that. Maybe we could take our first year and actually bump it up to year 3, and then year 2 to year 3. And so that would increase our starting salary without affecting the rest of the time. Of course, it would have to be negotiated. But that might be a benefit to everybody to help us lure some, attract more teachers to Lodi Unified. So that's something I think that we should look at. eliminate non-classroom teacher positions. You know, we've had this discussion, and I really think that our non-classroom teacher positions are important for several reasons. And I don't think that we should look at them. Maybe on a short term, we don't fill them or something like that, but I don't think we can go there. The next one, do not fill vacant administrative positions with current teachers. We can't do that. It's a career path for our teachers, for some of them. Some of them work long and hard to get their credentials. So I don't even think we can consider that. The hiring process, we already talked about that. I'm not a big fan of that. Although the next one you talk about during summer break, that may be an alternative to starting the year with more teachers. So I would, personally, I would support that. Research advocate options for the 30-day sub. I tell you what, that 30-day sub thing is just a pain, you know where. That is just the most ridiculous thing. We've got to do something about it. We've got to do something about people we put in long-term sub positions. We've got to figure that out. We can't put somebody in a long-term sub position and then move them 30 days later and move another sub in. And then I know it's the end.
Well, we try to evaluate every person. If the site is interested in having someone stay longer, we take a look at them and see if there's any possibility we can come up with to see if we can put them on either what's known as a PIP or a STIP, which are acronyms. It allows someone to be able to work in the position longer than 30 days. STIP allows somebody to work from the point of view they're hired to the end of the school year. The other one allows for exactly 1 year. So we work with the person to see what's likely to be most advantageous for that person to get the longest term out. Usually people that are doing that, not always, but most, are seeking to get into an actual intern program to earn their credential. And that's what was happening back in the early 2000s, and that's what's happening again today.
You know, and I understand that because Dr. Washer explained that to me, and I really appreciate that. I think that maybe one of the things that we should look at is being able to offer some of those programs directly through Lodi Unified. If we could get them signed up in that program here, then we could bust through that 30-day barrier. I really think that's something that we've got to try to do. As far as the sub-recruitment also, I think I read in the Ed Code actually, where districts and the governing boards of districts can authorize a district to conduct the, is it now CSET or what is it? CSET? Anyway, that you can actually conduct that. Well, a lot of people are afraid of taking tests. So why don't we offer classes to, free?
To help them pass the CSET?
Yeah. And advertise, hey, Lodi Unified is looking for subs. We'll help you get there. So I think there's some things like that that we might be able to do. And Mr. Gilligan, I will echo Mr. Nava. I think you've done a fantastic job on putting this together. I appreciate that very much. And I appreciate the report and your insights too on the cyclical nature of this issue. So, and that's all I got.
Very good. Other questions from the board?
Mr. Freitas.
Mr. Calkin.
I want to agree with Mr. Neely on one item, that Mr. Gilligan's done an excellent job. Unfortunately, I have to disagree with him on another item. Many people will disagree with me, and that's okay. And that's the eliminate non-classroom teacher positions. The number one role of the principal, the vice principal, and in the case of the high school, it's the assistant principal, is to assist in every way possible every teacher in the classroom program, as well as programs before school, during lunch, and after school. All the athletics, all the music, all the drama, everything that takes place, whether it's a dance or anything else. That's the number one role of every administrator in the schools. One of the points in these teachers that are in the staff development, there are 33 of them, they are some of our finest teachers in this district. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in that role. If you look at what has happened to us this year, there were 17 vacancies based on maternity and medical. Those have to be filled by substitutes. But there were 39 positions that were straight vacancies. There are 33 teachers on staff development. I would rather have those great teachers in the classrooms with kids, because that's where the answer is with success in school for kids. I want to force, if necessary, every principal, vice principal, and assistant principal to work hard assisting teachers, whether it's getting them supplies or teaching them how to teach, to assisting them in any way possible. I would rather have our teachers there with kids and putting our administrators to work doing what I consider to be the #1 job in administration for schools, and that's helping teachers. So I have to disagree with you, Mr. Neely.
Thank you, Dr. Calkin. Ladies, our discussion's running late, so I know you have homework, and that early bell at 7:20, so why don't we thank you for here, and we'll see you in a couple meetings.
Thank you.
All right. Other comments from the board?
A question about substitutes. One of the things we're having a hard time also doing out here is getting substitutes, because there's always a lot of scrambling if it's a day where, let's say it's a staff development day, and the teachers are here, they get called back because they can't find a sub, and on. But just on the normal course of our school year, this was brought up to me as a question by a retired elementary teacher. And that was this, is that, let's say I'm a substitute, I work on the first day of school. When do I get my first paycheck?
That's a good question. I'm sitting off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you, but I'd have to go look and see what the payroll schedule is. But substitutes, just like anybody else, get paid monthly. So whenever that monthly run is, whether it's the end of the month or whatnot, but it depends on how the time cards are coming in with the time cards. I honestly don't know when you say that day. I'd have to go look and see what the payroll schedule is. They turn the time cards in, and then the next time it rolls, they get paid for whatever days they have in.
Well, I'm just saying, we started August 1st, I work August 1st. Does that go to figure that I get paid August, the last day of August? No. That's my question. Why? I was asked, I don't know, I didn't have the answer, so I'm asking.
I have to go look, Mr. Whatever the monthly payroll schedule is, whenever the time card, there's a due date for all time cards to be in, and whatever time cards are at that point, they get paid for that. And then any time cards that come after that, get paid on the next payroll. So I don't know, so when you think about any schedule like that, in any district, even when I was subbing, I remember, there's some situations where you could work on a day and you might not get paid for it. It might be a little over a month before you get paid, because if you work the first day after one of those payroll deadlines, you could be potentially getting your first check a little bit more than a month after that. So I believe that's probably possible here too, since it's monthly.
Well, then it would be 2 months, because we get paid on the 30th.
I don't think it would be 2 months. I don't think it would roll to 2 whole months. I think it would be under that, but it might be over a month, depending on the schedule. Because
and the reason I'm bringing that up is that might be something too, is, and this individual was asking, why don't we pay substitutes every 2 weeks instead of monthly? I mean, it's a question, and if that would help support, I mean, let's face it, if you're substituting, you're not really making a lot of money, and they might need that.
Yeah. And certainly a district could do that. It's a balancing question, because then that puts another whole payroll run and a whole other process on the payroll department. So if you got enough people that can do that, but you might cause enough of a additional burden to run the whole system to generate the paychecks that you might end up having a larger, you may need another person or two to help, I don't know.
So Dr. Washer, if you could find that out for me, how that works, and then what the, well,
I'm sure we'll get the answer for that.
Yeah, I'm just going to Dr. Washer because that's the flow, yeah.
All right. Comments from the public?
Lady first.
Oh, okay, fine, I'll first.
Welcome, Sonia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Sonia Renhold. I'm an instructional technology coach. And I love our principals and our vice principals, especially since I've had a chance to really get to know some of them this year, more than just the one that I work with at my site. I now work with a number of sites. So I've gotten to know a number of principals and vice principals this year. With all due respect, the 33 of us that work upstairs barely can do everything that we need to do for this district. It is unrealistic to think that the principals could do it as well. Let me just remind you of the things that we do. We develop district-wide trainings, such as New Teachers Boot Camp, the one-to-one summer camp, IRE, which was district-wide for K-3 teachers. We dig into the new curriculums, such as Study Sync and Journeys, and we help our teachers understand it better. No disrespect to our HMH people who came and ran our one-day training, or our Study Sync people who came and ran our one-day training, but that simply was not enough for our teachers. And so we've provided additional trainings for them. We put extra hours in to find ways to make things simpler. In fact, this entire board meeting, I've been working on quick links for Journeys products so that our teachers can get to their Journeys products like that, as opposed to having to sift through the Think Central curriculum, just to give us extra minutes in the classroom so you can get to the big reader quickly, as opposed to spending a couple of minutes trying to find it online. We provide, and I also, while I really do like the idea of principals providing everything that a teacher needs, the relationship between a principal and a teacher is very different than a relationship between a coach and a teacher. I am a non-threatening person. I do not have control of your job and whether or not you're going to get fired, hired, recommended, or non-recommended. I come in there, you tell me what you need, and I help you get what you need. I've done lots of time in the classroom. In fact, one of my favorite things is doing demo lessons for teachers. So I show them how to help their kids learn how to use technology in a non-threatening way. I'm not sure that that relationship can be achieved between a principal and a teacher. Not in the way that the relationship can be achieved between a coach. And honestly, I was starting to make my list, but I'm gonna let Dave and Beverly go, so I'll email you guys the list of all the things we do, because truthfully, I know I'm not telling you everything because I work more hours now than I worked in the classroom, which is crazy, but I do. But I also love what I do. I did wanna offer one kind of off-the-wall idea, off track of this, for your list of additional strategies to consider. I was a substitute teacher for 5 years prior to becoming a credentialed teacher. I actually loved substitute teaching. It was one of my favorite things to do. Not as much as what I love now, though, truthfully. What if, and I know that there are quite a few people who substitute teach prior to becoming teachers. Is there any way that we can give them some sort of incentive in movement on the pay scale based on the number of years that they substitute taught? Now, substitute teacher is not a regular teacher, I understand that. But in the 5 years that I substitute taught, I learned an awful lot about classroom management. I learned an awful lot about curriculum that I didn't know before. And it's possible that that could be something that would attract people and might even attract our current substitutes into going into some sort of academic program to become teachers later. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Sonia.
Just in case you forgot, I'm going to remember to be formal. I'm Beverly Winchester, instructional coach. I wanted to address the earlier conversation you had about the retention of teachers and the substitute issue before I even get to the piece that Sonia was commenting on about instructional coaches and what we do. First of all, I don't know exactly what the answer is, but I know what the problem is. I know when we're talking about these 30-day subs and people who are coming and going, I know that it's not the teachers that are hurting. I know it's not the admin that's hurting. And I know it's the children who are hurting. Seriously, big time. I got a call yesterday about a substitute, a combo teacher that I didn't even realize was a substitute. Because like Sonia said, we're running from all over the sites. I have like 9 sites, K-12. And I didn't realize this person wasn't a long-term, full-time combo teacher until yesterday morning when the new sub was assigned, the week before report cards. And so, I'm sorry, I'm in triage mode. And the fact of the matter is, most of us are in survival mode. And when you've got substitutes that are being rotated in and out of the classroom, they're in survival mode. They haven't had the training, be it one day with the publishers. They don't know the technology that we've got. And if we didn't have instructional coaches in there helping those situations, then they would be far, far worse than what we can have. Even imagine what it would be like. What worries me is that what could we do as a district to make those situations better? We can't help the budget. We can't help the fact that we're trying to hire new people, but we can help the fact that they get the worst prep schedule in the world, that they always get a combo class, and that there's very little mandatory, required, expected support beyond, you know what, we've all been there, we've all done that, you just have to suck it up and get through it. So I would challenge Leah, I would challenge every classroom teacher, every peer teacher at the site to stand up and do what we can to help these people, because I'm tired of hearing stories of substitutes and pre-interns, and now I even found out there's people who are wanting to be teachers and who don't even qualify to be a pre-intern. They're the pre-pre's, and they're going home and they're crying. They're not even making it to the car. I'm hearing their sob stories. They are passionate for our kids, and they're trying their best, and we have put them in an impossible situation. There's got to be something. We've got to do something to help them. Some of them don't even get to qualify for pizza, and nobody likes pizza. Nobody likes all the extra work that requires. And even though you could say we've got classes and there's free things, it still is always that most hateful word. You thought fidelity was the new F word? Time. Time is the problem. Because no matter what we offer, there's still only so many minutes in the day. And it's always going to be a problem. But we've got to do what we can to make the environment tolerable for these people who are willing to be there. And then when it comes down to, you know, just the basics, these are people who haven't had teachers training, they haven't had methodology classes, some of them haven't even had their own children to understand what it means to do classroom management. So if we're gonna offer any free kind of classes, that's first on my list, because you can't get to instruction if you can't manage the kids and you can't manage the time that you have in the day. And then lastly, I would want to say, yes, we could ask people like myself, and I'm glad that you think we're great. There's a lot of great teachers who aren't instructional coaches. And I'm glad that you think that we could come back out there and be of a great service. But then again, you also have to realize it's feast or famine, just like it is with the supply of classroom teachers, substitutes. If we decimate our instructional coaches, then we're pulling from everybody as opposed to just a few. And getting that built up takes a lot of training. We go to a lot of training for coaching, and it's not the sort of thing, it's not just you step into and you do this. It's very structured and it's very systematic on how we're taught and trained to do this and reach all these people. And when you go into many classes, you do help many people as opposed to one. So we've got a couple elementary that relieves a couple elementary. We've got a couple math that relieves a couple math. We've got a couple tech who might go back to social science, like for instance, Charles Taylor or whatever. We're not gonna solve the problem. Let's not make it worse by losing the support we are trying to give our teachers. We need ongoing PD. We do the best we can to meet their needs where they are. So please find out what else we can do. I wish I had the answers. Sorry, it's on you. My second suggestion would be, let's remind our admin that they can go in and cover a class once in a while. You want to have them help a teacher? Get their hands in the class. Don't require that they spread out 30 kids and ruin 4 classes instead of 1. It just totally sold off the whole day. It's not recoverable. Time is gone. Thank you.
Thank you. David?
Dave Early, sixth grade teacher, Sutherland Elementary. Mr. Freitas, members of the board, Dr. Washer. First off, I'd like to thank you for putting this item on the agenda and getting a report. I think that we need to have these courageous conversations. And I also agree with Mr. McKilligan. This is not a problem for personnel alone. I really believe in public education, but I believe the future of our country depends on public education. But I also think the most important part of that is educating those who have the least access to education. If our country is going to continue to survive and thrive, we need to provide those opportunities to those who have the least are gaining the least from our current situation. I like some of the suggestions there. I have a number of my own as well, but I would like you to consider a centralized hiring process. And the reason I'd like you to consider that is because schools like Sutherland Elementary, with 5 long-term subs right now, 5 long-term subs, which is more than the entire population of long-term subs in the Lincoln Unified School District, which has 0. Stagg High School, a school of over 125 teachers, that has 2, but we have 5 at a school of less than 20 teachers. The centralized hiring process could alleviate some of the difficulty that we have in terms of, if we have, right now we're cannibalizing each other. Principal here, principal there, officer position here, officer position there. They're going to go to Lodi schools, they're going to go to the high economic schools. As a result, the Title I schools such as Sutherland, Park Lane suffer. A centralized hiring process may alleviate that, and I think it's something that should be considered. We're not going to solve this problem with the same level of thought that we went into it. We have to think differently. We're going to have to think creatively, and it is going to take everybody. It's going to take the universities. It's going to take all the departments that are within our district. It's going to take great effort on the board part, but this is a community problem that we have. We have to think some different things. We have to look at something like, perhaps we could look at providing childcare for our teachers. Perhaps we need to look at establishing some types of centers. We need some incentives. What is the biggest thing that young teachers have to worry about? Where their kids are, how much the cost of childcare is. These are just some ideas that come. We have to think very differently than the way we're thinking, because what we're thinking right now is not working. And who does it affect the most? It affects our students, particularly our most vulnerable students. A couple other ideas we might think about establishing tutoring programs with a place like University of Pacific to work with our avid students at the high school and middle school level. We may be able to attract some teachers from that level as well. We have to remember, this is the Central Valley. And when you think about the Central, I am from the Central Valley, I'm from Stockton. I came back here because my parents and grandparents were here. I ended my career here. I graduated from a school of 900 graduates. Less than 100 graduates from my high school class actually reside in the area now. Where are we going to get our teachers from? We have to grow our own. So we're going to have to develop some process to bring our students from the elementary level through the high school level, encourage them to be able to go into the teaching profession, which is an amazing profession for a first-generation college student. We've got to develop teachers that look like our students, because let's face it, the majority of our teachers don't look like the majority of our students, particularly in some schools. And that should be a goal of ours as well. And where are we going to get them from? We're going to get them from our own. So this is a problem that's going to take a great level of thought. We're not going to solve it tonight, but I'm glad to see that we're working on it. And I hope that it's something that continues to be brought up, because it's not going to go away. And our students are going to graduate, but there's going to be plenty more. So thank you for bringing it up. And I hope that we're able to have some great discussions. Leah involved as well, because there's no way one entity is going to solve it alone. Thank you.
David, thank you very much for those comments. And it's a nice way to close this item. Dr. Washer and Mr. McKilligan. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You snuck behind Dave. So. All right.
I wasn't really planning on speaking to this, but it's something that's important to me. I'm sorry, I'm Lori Celeste. I'm a third grade teacher at Ansel Adams and a former parent of Lodi students and a former graduate of Lodi High. So been in Lodi for a long time. I've taught here for 20 years. And first of all, the 30-day substitute issue, I want to speak to my personal experience on that. Last year, we had a 2-3 RSP open for the entire year. Those are my most needy students that got virtually no services because of the 30-day turnover. I had one student that was qualified for special education third quarter. He received 0 services for the rest of the year. He was qualified but didn't receive any services. That's a huge problem and it's not even legal. So that's a huge thing. And the other thing that I think Lodi could do better with, I've had the opportunity to be in some cohorts outside of our district and be with teachers in other districts. And what other districts do is incentivize some specialty trainings like Martha with her DAN ambassadors and what she does with Discovery Education. There's teachers in our district that are seeking national board certification. Lodi does not support that whatsoever. We pay for it ourselves. We have one teacher in the entire district national board certified, which is very well under what other districts have. They offer an incentive to do that and they offer a stipend. That was one thing that in bargaining, we were told we are absolutely not interested, or the district is not interested. We need to look at things like that where teachers have a passion for one area of professional development and we're seeking that out on our own, paying for it ourselves because it is our passion. But it's not important to our district is the message that we get. So that might be one way. I have a lot of ideas and I too will email you. Thank you.
You got Mr. McKilligan's attention. He's writing down that stuff. Yes, Michelle?
Just bring them back, please.
I promise I won't drop them. You have teachers in the audience tonight that face this dilemma. This is a teacher's grading, noting of student work. Can you imagine a 30-day sub expected to do this? We've got to find a way. I love that this has been brought up and the discussion is here. Something that came to light as David was speaking was, at Title I sites, some of their loans are forgiven. So maybe we can send out that information about loan forgiveness through some of the federal programs when you work at a Title I site. So maybe we can attach that to job fairs. I can only imagine a new teacher. Needham faced the same problem with 2 positions that remained open all of last year and were roving, and one of them was intervention. And so the neediest kids with the lowest scores never had a full-time teacher. So I understand the shift of moving our colleagues from coaching to the classroom. I think that's a Band-Aid. I think that, I've heard compliments within the last week. Beverly, you didn't make it on the list tonight of compliments and shout outs, but a high school teacher, she was in there helping, work with the studies team, dealt with her in a professional manner. I didn't feel stupid. She helped me along. So I think our coaches' jobs are important. There is no quick answer. There is no fix. But as Mr. McKilligan talked tonight about maybe putting some of these teachers on a special program, let's look at that waiver, getting them enlisted if we can, especially if they're interested. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Michelle. And thank everyone for those wonderful comments. Mr. McKilligan, thank you for your report.
I have another question.
Moving on to Board Advisory Committee reports.
I have another question and I need an answer, period.
Moving on to Board Advisory Committee reports. Does any board member have any?
I have something I need to talk about. What's the hurry? Okay, just let people talk. If they need to talk, I need to talk, we'll talk. I think this is.
Ms. Everly, I believe you're out of order.
Are you serious?
I mean, 3 times, you've already made comments, you've asked several questions throughout this matter, and I believe this matter is well discussed. As president, I'm asking that we move on.
I understand and I respect your time also, but it's just a very simple question that would take about 30 seconds. With your permission, Mr. President.
Of course, Mr. Everly.
Thank you. Very similar, I think we all understand that the 30-day sub is kind of ridiculous. And it does hurt children more than anybody else in the room. When we do have a substitute or a long-term sub that's going to be there for any length of time, part of what we were talking about is actually a good working environment. So when a substitute comes in, is there any kind of established, I guess, safety net for them? I understand teachers a lot of times will just do it, grab onto them, kind of help them out. Is there something that we have set that is more, I guess, official, where we could ask a teacher to do it and pay them for their time, or is something for a principal? Do we have anything like that set? This official kind of?
I don't have anything that's set up through personnel. I don't know that we have any district formalized support or mentor or assigned mentor, if that's kind of where you're suggesting. I do think that what you said is what usually is what's happening. The reality is that a lot of times the sites band together. It's your teachers at the Skype, regular teachers that are helping these people to survive. And I do believe that's normally what's happening. That's what saved me when I started as a sub in a long-term position.
It's very common. That's why I asked the question. Maybe that's something we can try to think about and formalize also. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Everly. Moving on. Board Advisory Committee reports. Does any board member wish to advise about a committee report? Seeing none, future agenda items. Does any board member wish that any topics be brought for future board consideration? All right. Having none, the chair will entertain a motion.
Move to adjourn. Second.